Oftentimes, we find ourselves worrying, fretting, and having anxiety about certain minuscule, minute things in our lives. Oh, my job is not going well. My relationship hit a rough patch. Every single time, if you're still here, which you have to be if you're listening to this video, every single time that you thought you were not going to solve a problem, you ended up solving that problem because you're here today. Also, in terms of the entire circumference of the earth, you're not even the equivalent of a pimple on an elephant's ass. That is just on the planet Earth. But if you really want to understand how microscopic you really are, and microscopic is the correct term as I delve into some interesting science, you've got to understand the universe. The key to understanding the universe is realizing how small Earth is. If you were to put this into perspective, Earth is the fifth smallest planet in the entire solar system. The only planets that are smaller than Earth in our solar system are Venus, Mars, and last, Mercury, which is the smallest planet in the entire solar system. Putting this into more of a perspective, just in the surface of the sun alone, the surface, not even the entire star, you could fit 109 Earths. In the entire sun, if you look at the entire radius of the sun, which is if you were to draw a straight line from the center of the circle of the sun, that's the radius. You could fit 1 million Earths into the sun, because the sun has 100 times larger radius than the Earth. And the sun is not even a large star in comparison to the entire universe. It's average by the standards of the universe. The largest planet in the solar system, which is Jupiter, is so monolithic that you could fit 1,300 Earths into one Jupiter. In fact, you could fit our entire solar system into one Jupiter. How do scientists and astronomers measure light? Light is distance, the speed of light. The speed of light is 186,282 miles per second. But that's still not fast enough to travel through the entire universe. And that's what scientists refer to as the observable universe. That's the universe that we, mere mortal humans, have been able to observe, which is as far as light has traveled throughout the universe's entire existence. What's difficult about this is that the universe is expanding it's expanding symmetrically. Think of a balloon as you blow it up. One part of the balloon doesn't just expand, the entire circumference of the balloon as a whole expands. And it gets larger and larger and larger. Kind of like in Willy Wonka when Violet eats the candy and becomes a giant blueberry. Her entire body expands and expands. And that's what the universe is doing from edge to edge. Faster than the speed of light, and it's constantly accelerating. That means that eventually, in several billion years, the observable part of our universe that we humans can see will be about the size of the Milky Way galaxy, then the size of the entire solar system. But that's all ignoring the fact that the sun, like every other star in the universe, will eventually explode by that time. And we won't be able to see as far as the moon anymore if we're still here. But of course, if the sun was gone, we wouldn't have light, we wouldn't have energy to power our universe and our crops, and everybody would die. But that's just some interesting facts to put into perspective about how small we really are. Furthermore, a light year is what astronomers use to measure the vast distance in space. A light year is the distance light travels in 1 year. I'm sure you've heard of the term light year before. Most people have, even if vaguely. 1 light year is about 9,500 trillion miles. And a trillion, for those of you that just hear that word, it's a million. So that means that light travels 9,500 trillion miles in a year. A light year is distance, not time though. It is, even though it uses the word. But you also have a smaller way to measure it, and that's called a light minute. That sounds like something that means a quick minute. I'll be back in a light minute. But actually, a light minute is the distance light travels in 1 minute. So instead of measuring it by years and light years, astronomers have made it even more micro and have measured it in a minute. Light travels 11,160,000 miles per minute. Now, if you were to use light minutes, Earth is about 8 light minutes from the sun. It takes light from the sun about 8 minutes to reach us. So when you're looking at the sun, you're actually seeing the sun as it was 8 minutes ago. If the sun suddenly went dark, we wouldn't know it until 8 minutes later. As I stated previously, scientists have estimated that in several billion years, just like any star, the sun will eventually die, just like any other star does. This isn't something that is an exception to the rule. The sun is only significant in our universe because it powers the universe. But in the scope compared to the rest of the universe, it's just a regular star in size and function and every other factor and metric. The sun is pretty much powered by hydrogen and helium, but the hydrogen is already burning out, and helium is a gas, and gas eventually runs out. Gas is not infinite. When that helium runs out, that's when Earth is going to see the sun dissipate. But since it takes 8 minutes to reach us from the sun, people won't know until 8 minutes later. That light they will be seeing, the last moments of the sun's existence, will actually be light from 8 years in the past, which I found very fascinating. Now let's measure even more. The furthest planet from the sun, Neptune, is 249 light minutes from the sun. The next closest star system to us, Alpha Centauri, is about 2.5 million light minutes away. The distance to the Alpha Centauri in light years, so if you were to measure years rather than minutes, would be 4.5 years. Also interesting, most stars that you can see with your naked eye on a clear night without a telescope or binoculars is in a radius within 5,000 light years. That means that every star you see in the night sky without a telescope is within 5,000 years of our universe. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is about 100,000 light years from us, which means it would take about 1,000 years to travel from the Earth to the Milky Way. The next closest galaxy to us, Andromeda, is 2.5 million light years in distance from us. And the light that we already see in the galaxy closest to us is about 2.5 million years old. Take all of that into account and then zoom out. Zoom out from the Milky Way all the way back to Neptune, all the way back to Earth. Zoom into Earth, which is 70% water. Zoom out into all the continents, all the 8 continents. Zoom in into your own country. Zoom in into your own province, state, or whatever area you live in. Zoom into your town or city. Zoom all the way in to your house, and then zoom in into the room you're in. And that will pretty much explain to you just how minuscule you really are in terms of not just the Earth, not just your country, not just the world, but within the entire universe. There's actually an interesting exercise called looking above. I will conclude with this. I used to work in a restaurant doing dishes. On a busy Friday night, it became frustrated when I was the only one back there. I couldn't leave the kitchen until every dish was clean. And by every dish, I mean not just the dishes the customers ate, but the utensils the cooks used, all the cookware, all of the stuff the waitresses used, all the stuff in the kitchen, the mixers, every little component. I used to get frustrated. And some nights when I first started and I was slow, I looked down on myself. You know how that is when you start a job and you go through the shitter. It's all part of it. It is what it is. But then I started doing an exercise called View from Above. It's part of Stoicism, which comes from the philosopher Marcus Aurelius. Look this up on a separate video. They'll explain it better than I do. What I do is when I feel like I have a horrible problem that is going to totally impact me and the world is over because that girl rejected me, or the world is over because I'm way behind on dish and everybody's stuck there waiting on my ass, I zoom from the Milky Way galaxy all the way to Neptune, all the way to the Earth, all the way to the continents, all the way to the countries, all the way to my state, all the way to my town, and all the way to the current location I'm in. This particular circumstance only affects .0.00005 hours later, 0.1% of any living beings. When you realize how small you are, it also minimizes how small your problems are. And it creates less anxiety and friction on your mind.